Hi, my name's Alpert, ABD, and Osipova and I created this project. Best class I ever had was SPED 670 at CSUN. Reading processes. Sue Sears and Michael Spagno co-taught. The lectures were smart, the in-class activities were insightful, the curriculum leaned heavily on science. All top quality stuff. But one component was revelatory. Actual students to teach. SPED 670 provided two options for the second half of the semester. Teach a student from the community every week, an option theretofore unheard of in my experience, or do more academic work. So bam, I'm face to face with a real child with real reading needs and all the other needs and feelings and thoughts a child might bring onto a university campus. As I reconstruct the assignment, before meeting the student, I first reviewed background information and wrote an assessment plan and lesson plan. After I assessed and taught that first time, I wrote a report on our session and a new lesson plan building on what had been learned by both me and the student. Dr. Sears provided written feedback. Subsequent weeks were routine. Teach, assess, report, get feedback from Dr. Sears, revise the lesson plan based on feedback and assessments, rinse and repeat. It was great. Yada, yada, yada. 15 years later, I am now a joint doctoral student at Cal State LA and UCLA, thank you very much, and in the throes of finishing my dissertation research on how we teach reading instruction. The subjects of my work are the first reading instruction course a special education credential candidate is likely to encounter in each of the 22 California State University education specialist mild-moderate credential programs. That is a mouthful, so I'll just say candidate, program, credential, or course from here on out. This is vital stuff. This is vital stuff because it matters so much to how well our teachers teach and, therefore, how well our students learn. I've taught this course a couple of times now. I have my biases, so as I make certain judgments in this study, I expect those biases will sometimes matter. I also expect some of you will sometimes differ with those judgments. Good, because I may be a product of the reading wars, but what I am not is a combatant in the reading wars. Couching our differences as confrontations has done our profession, our field of study, and our students much more harm than good. Basta ya! Now, the study. So we, as an educational system, know that our students have unmet needs in reading instruction. And we, as an educational research community, we know how to meet most of those needs. And we, as a professional community, know that our teachers are not learning how to meet those needs. Not in their credential programs, not consistently. What we don't know is what our programs are teaching about reading instruction and how our programs are teaching candidates to teach reading. So the purpose of this study is to describe what programs are teaching candidates about teaching students to read and describe how programs are teaching them. There's more, of course, but 15 minutes flies by. In brief, the questions are, what are candidates expected to know and know how to do upon completion of the course? And how is this knowledge taught? The study's methods are pretty straightforward. First, I collected documents, then I analyzed them. Primarily, I collected documents related to curriculum and instruction of the courses, course descriptions, syllabi. I also gathered theory, policy, and research-based texts for analysis. I used these to inform my analysis of catalog descriptions and syllabi. I analyzed the course documents to answer the research questions. What is being taught? How is it being taught? The iterative document coding resulted in a 3-part coding system. If you wish to pause the video and absorb the parsimonious glory of it all, please do. For the rest of you, I will spare you the details and cut to the findings. The most basic finding is about curriculum and how courses describe reading. Most courses situated reading as part of something broader. Many situated reading as part of language arts. Many situated reading as part of broadly defined literacy, academic learning, art, culturally responsive teaching, social justice. Conversely, most courses also describe reading in terms of the component parts, much as is found in RECA. 5 of these components are familiar from NRP: phonemic or phonological awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension. Others included print concepts, alphabetic principles, spelling, automatic sight word recognition, oral language, and writing. I need to pause here and ask, what do you mean by phonics? The answer is not always obvious from the documents, and details matter. And while I'm asking, what do you do with prosody when you teach fluency? It was rarely mentioned in the documents, and I saw no lessons for it. Drop me a line, howalpert@ucla.edu. I want to know. We all seem to agree that teaching means assessing. Many courses used informal reading inventories. Many courses explicitly stated this or that kind of assessment is for the purpose of guiding lesson planning. I love the disparate perspective evident even within all of this agreement. Take a moment and imagine the differences between the course that teaches curriculum-based measurement as part of a progress monitoring scheme versus the course that teaches kid watching as a means of knowing your students' needs. A strategy apparent in many courses was to teach in a system that includes initial screening and placement assessments, goals and lesson planning based on those initial assessments, and then teaching, formative assessments for progress monitoring, and lessons based on those formative assessments. A related strategy comprises ways to differentiate lessons or instructional methods and materials to meet students' needs. Accommodations, modifications, multi-tiered system of supports or RTI, universal design for learning, a couple of mentions of SEDI strategies. No sign of PSYOP. What's the story, Long Beach? Collaboration and co-teaching showed up rarely, but this is so good. We need to drop everything and turn our attention to Dr. Requist's Special Education 775 curriculum and instruction in elementary special education at San Francisco State. She dedicates 2 class sessions to collaborative lesson planning with general education credential candidates. Small teams collaborate on social studies lesson plan designed with UDL and formative assessments to engage and support students with special needs. Actual experience, actually collaborating. Steal this now and send her a congratulatory email. Speaking of emails, if you teach a course that includes reading instruction and your curriculum includes Readers and Writers Workshop, are you referring to Lucy Calkins' units of study? Something similar? Let me know. howalpert@ucla.edu. And while we're at it, when you say guided reading, shared reading, interactive reading, reciprocal reading, close reading, and comprehension strategies, do you think your colleagues who teach similar courses use the same term the same way you do? Do you refer to a published source for that method and that term? howalpert@ucla.edu. Operators are standing by. Because one of the most prominent strategies many courses wanted candidates to know was some variation of assessing, planning, teaching, and monitoring, it should not come as a surprise then that one way courses taught this strategy was to have students do it, step by step. I'll spend a couple slides on it. I mentioned at the top how transformative the practicum was for me. I called it revelatory because by the time I took this course, I had taken to heart a pedagogy that emphasized modeling and practice and feedback. But until then, the closest I had ever gotten to practice was writing a couple of lesson plans, maybe giving an assessment to a classmate. Actual practice teaching had been conspicuously missing elements. Plenty of candidates taking their first reading instruction course will be in a similar position. Most courses I analyzed included a case study, often the course's signature assignment, often integrated with the department's student teaching practicum. Most followed some variation of the same pattern. Choose a student, collect background information, assess their reading needs, write one or more lessons based on the assessments, teach the lessons to the student, assess the student's learning, report, and reflect. A couple of courses stood out, and there's one I just must highlight. And you must, again, drop everything and steal this lesson. It is part of someone's research, and I did not receive consent to share it, so I've simplified it to preserve any proprietary information. You will not gain the benefit of its full glory, but I hope to do it justice. Here's the key. Teach what you want the candidates to learn. They start with a lesson plan, a brief one, nothing too elaborate, with modeling and guided practice in class. At a subsequent session, candidates present their lesson in small groups. While one candidate presents, the others provide structured positive and corrective feedback. Not bad, eh? But wait, there's more. Because that's just once. They do it again. a bit more complex and a bit more technically specific, still with small groups and structured feedback from the peers. The last in-class practice adds a wrinkle. Pairs of candidates partner with one playing the role of teacher and the other playing student, whose learner profile they devise together. They choose the book, write the lesson. In class, the teacher teaches and the student responds with planned, partially correct answers. This provides the teacher the opportunity to demonstrate their instructional techniques, and again, with structured feedback from their peers. Then, and only then, are candidates set loose on actual K-12 students to plan and teach a similar video-recorded lesson and reflect. How great is that? We can't finish without talking about reflecting. So much reflecting. Now, I was once told I was highly reflective. I chose to take that as a compliment. But when you ask your students to reflect, and they send you a paragraph or a page or two, what do you see? I had earned a master's degree and a level 1 credential, and I was well into my level 2 when I had this wonderful course on collaboration and consultation with Sally Spencer. A moment came in the course when she asked us to write a reflection. Of course, I told her I would be happy to write a reflection, but first, one question. What is a reflection? Because even at that late stage of my program, I really did not know. If anyone had ever tried to teach me what a reflection was, I had missed the lesson. And I'll be as frank with you as I was with Sally. I still don't have a clear idea of what we expect the outcome of a reflection to be. Or I didn't, because my brilliant and expert co-author, Anna Osipova, knows. And she told me. So, in a nutshell, when we ask for a reflection, we guide our students to reflect on their students' responses to our actions, evidence of that response, and what they would do differently. And do they have the knowledge and resources to make that change? You knew before I started that I would find a wealth of high-quality work. We are rich with excellent educators dedicated to training the next generation of excellent educators. And you knew that this has not been enough to provide our schools with teachers prepared to teach California students to read. We, as a system, need to become more effective. This is only one study looking at a limited aspects of one course per program. It can't tell us how to change outcomes in our schools. But if you take away just one idea from this presentation, I hope it is this. Your colleagues are doing great work. And if you're teaching one of these courses, or if you have a stake in them, you have wisdom to share, and your colleagues need to hear from you. Don't be the only one teaching strategic literacy support, just as an example. Likewise, you need to hear from your colleagues. Maybe that's more than one idea, but it leads to this one. We need to talk. More than the occasional kibitz at a conference, more than the cordial email, this is a cohort in need of connection. How do you want to do it? Slack channel, breakout session, bi-yearly picnic? Whatever the method, whatever the structure, to become more effective, we, the educators responsible for propagating effective reading instruction into California schools for the lifelong benefit of California students, we need to talk. I say we because, remember, I'm going to ask you for a job soon. Please say yes